to infinity and beyond.
Everybody, it's Roger and James here from DisKingdom.com with another episode of the Infinity and Beyond podcast. In this episode, we're going to be talking about, well, over the weekend it was the 1 year kind of anniversary since the death of Disney Infinity, and since the Infinity guys got back together from the Res Network last week in the little episode where Will Lloyd and Pirate Steven got together, I was sat here going, yeah, we'll do the same thing, and just to kind of jump in and just go, let's be honest about it.
Yeah, let's see.
This kind of thing of like it being a year on from Disney Infinity, and that kind of feeling of like where we all are, like with the, I mean, for me personally, I haven't touched the game since I completed the Finding Dory playset, and all my figures are now boxed up behind me. And when I move into my new property, which is why we're a different angle, I think some of them are going to go in the loft. I don't think I'm going to be having, I might put a few characters out if I decide to play the game, or put a few up for the figures, but yeah, this far on, I don't feel the need to jump back in as much. You?
See, I've moved recently as well, and when it came time to move, a large number of the figures didn't make the move with me. It's not even, they got put into storage, not even they got put into, a loft or whatever. They just don't exist anymore. They're gone. I kept a lot of the Star Wars. Actually, I kept all the Star Wars one, a fair number of the Marvel ones, and then a couple of my favorite Disney ones. But other than actually having them and, sifting through them to find out which ones I wanted to keep, I don't think I've touched them. I didn't even play the Finding Dory set at all. I still need to play it.
It's a good. I still think that was a good, solid game, and I can't. And looking at it a year on, it's like, man, you guys should have just released it as a solo game. You would have made more money on it. And this is, and kind of as we are just about, it feels like we're about 2-3 weeks away from the release of Cars 3: Driven to Win, which is essentially the first kind of new flower to be sort of to grow from the compost that was Disney Infinity.
That's
definitely
one way of putting it.
Yeah, it's like it's that odd thing. Like it's been I feel like feeling like a Disney video game fan. It's been a hard year because the gap it left was not really filled with much. The void was very much just left wide open. Lots of mobile games, lots of re-releases, and it literally just feels like we're about to just hit the bump where stuff is actually going to start coming back out again. So it's definitely odd.
I think the big thing that we're getting from it is that Disney may have been a little premature in cutting Infinity off. Not because they were wrong to. We obviously don't know anything about the financial stuff except what they release in their quarterly reports. So, I mean, they probably made the right decision to cut it. But the way they did it was wrong. With the Finding Dory set still not out, the Alice in Wonderland characters weren't out yet. They had a ton of stuff that was close enough to production that if they had followed through, even if they maybe produced a slightly smaller amount of them, they could have recouped most of their costs. Kind of do a silent cancellation of it. Just say, all right, this stuff that you've got ready or near ready, we'll finish that off, and then we'll announce the cancellation once all those are out. And look, we'll already have Cars 3 ready to go. We'll have, a Star Wars game and stuff. But like you said, this year-long just gap of new content not existing, I mean, it's not going to hurt them in the long run, but it certainly made the last year kind of meh.
Yeah, it's interesting, because, I mean, last week we had another quarterly results from Disney. And the interactive consumer products, it's like literally, I was reading this section and I actually had to go back and check it while I was reading that month's, because it literally was word for word from the previous quarter about the discontinuation of Disney Infinity and how was that. And I was like, you used the same wording last time. It's like you've got nothing to release in that quarter bar Kingdom Hearts, so there was nothing to be released in. And I do feel like we said, they didn't plan properly for this. They left it wide open to the point of we're cancelling it, but we've got no one in line to replace them. Marvel, we didn't have a lot of Marvel games over that year, but they were jumped in so much earlier, and we've got quite a few Marvel games set to come out, and they've announced them. I'm hoping at E3 we find out a bit more about some Disney titles, but Disney didn't leave themselves wide open. They just shut it down. And like we said, whether or not they've done, I almost look like it now. Had they done the Lego Dimensions thing where, they spread out the last few releases, there's lots of rumblings and lots of things going on, but that Moana playset, that Rogue One playset, had that just been like, oh yeah, it's carrying on. And then this January, just gone, oh yeah, we'll be announcing some new stuff in, we're not coming back for 4. Just the way they did it was so rough, so abruptly, and that come from the top. I don't think it was done from Disney.
Oh no,
there'd been problems brewing for a while before that. We talked about it on the show a lot about there was a lot of miscommunication and stuff. But a year on, the Toys to Life category feels pretty much dead. Amiibo are the only ones really kind of looking like they are doing anything, but it's slightly different. Lego Dimensions, that feels like they've still got a Wave 9 to come, but that's pretty much, it feels like that's died. And Skylanders, apparently there is rumours of them maybe doing something at E3, but who knows if it will carry on this thing. I mean, I even saw a tweet yesterday from a PlayStation overseas where they even included a picture of Spyro, so they could bring in Spyro back another way. The Toys to Life category is just, the shop is empty, there's nothing there, they've all gone. It's looking very different.
Yeah, I walk through Best Buy now, and other than some Animal Crossing amiibos, there's really not much. They've got a couple of the standard, Nintendo ones. There's Mega Man standing there, and like a couple of those guys. But I think a large question that's worth asking, though, is was Disney Infinity reading the letters on the wall and jumping out before things got terrible, or how much of this fallout is the other companies going, well, man, if Disney's jumping out, we better jump out too? How much is Lego and Skylanders? Granted, this was inevitable. This was always inevitable, as is the case with all franchises, all video game fads, etc. There might always exist some form of Toys to Life, but Skylanders, Disney Infinity, they were all going to eventually end no matter what.
Yeah.
Would we have gotten another year or so if, rather than just being like, oh, well, we decided Infinity is gone and now it's gone, would maybe we have a new Skylanders game this year? Maybe would we already know, like, Wave 10, Wave 11 of Lego Dimensions would be, and maybe they get another year or two out of it. Yeah. We don't know.
No, it definitely, to me, like the death of Infinity, on one hand, you have the Toys to Life section, and then you have the licensed game section. I've probably missed the actual game section more than the actual figures, because when they released when they released Baloo for the Jungle Book, you weren't getting a lot of content. You weren't getting a lot. I mean, it looked like you were getting something, but you weren't really getting it very much at all. Obviously, you got the playset. It felt like you were getting a new game. There's that feeling of had a Moana game came out. Like looking forward to the future. It does feel like now. The trouble is with Infinity is it sucked all the licensed games in that Disney do. And in some ways it restricted it. It kind of made it harder for people to invest in it. Like you say, we've got Pirates of the Caribbean coming out over in this month. And there is only a mobile tie-in. Whereas had maybe Infinity not existed, we could have maybe seen a video game. They all died off a little bit. I think the PlayStation 3 era kind of, the licensed games started becoming less and less because we started realizing quality wasn't there, and Marvel taking a different direction of offering quality and not trying to tie in. They can use mobile and stuff for your casual stuff, but there's still a world for video games based on these franchises, and it did leave a whopping great big gap in the games releases.
Right, and this is why it would have been especially nice if they'd continued, at least even in limited quantities, releasing new stuff through maybe like halfway through this year, maybe a bit farther, because we're actually at the point now where they could have looped back to those original Disney Infinity 1.0 playsets. We got Cars 3 coming out, we've got Pirates coming out, and you've got these fans who stuck around from the beginning who'd be like, well, man, now I've got Jack and Barbossa and Davy Jones, and now I've also got whatever the Spanish captain's name is going to be,
They would have
Salazar.
They would have resold us the figures.
Just like Captain America. Yeah, absolutely.
It definitely it feels now like, I think with Driven Cars 3 set to come so close, it feels like the drought is kind of coming to the end. I mean, we know of no other Disney licensed games that are on the verge at all. But the fact that Avalanche is owned by Warner Bros., I can't help but think Cars 3 got done a while ago and is ready to roll, literally. And they're probably working on other stuff. We don't know what other companies are ever also working on franchises. That's nothing like that's been announced. It just feels odd. I think it feels a year on. The term of Disney Infinity, it definitely feels like part of past. It's people have definitely moved on from it. Toys to Life as general is just dried up, and I think a lot of the other gamers have just jumped over to other stuff, and it was what you'd expect to happen.
And also, remember that Infinity was largely aimed as a kids thing. Obviously we're adults talking about it, and most of the people that we talk to about it are also adults. But a lot of the yeah, that's true. But all the kids who grew up with Skylanders, all the kids who grew up with Infinity, and even Lego Dimensions, they've moved on, and they're starting to get into the Call of Duty games. They're starting to get into Titanfall, maybe even into single player games and whatnot. But you can't realistically expect most gamers to stick with kid franchises for this long.
No, and I think that was always the thing of that, and maybe as well, younger kids growing up, maybe they're just more onto tablets, and therefore the game they moved somewhere else, and the next generation wasn't coming along underneath it. But kind of feeling like a year on, Disney Infinity did a lot of stuff right, but they also, is that kind of thing of I think they went way too big. I mean, at least looking at like how Nintendo offer their products now, that whole thing about the amiibo shortages and the way people used to go nuts for them and go bonkers for them, and Disney coming around and going, "Oh, we don't want to do that. We've made plenty." That didn't really work for Hulk, did it?
Well, when you're filling up warehouses with Yondu, it doesn't do so. Which is ironic, because Yondu was one of the best characters in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and I suspect that he would have been a lot more popular as a figure this time around.
Yeah.
Another franchise that actually would have rolled over from the original sets in Disney Infinity 2.0. This would have been a year for returning to figures that we already had. Maybe getting reposes of them, but being able to go, awesome, this investment I made years ago is paying off now with being able to use them again in these new sets. Yeah. But we can't.
No. It's that kind of thing, isn't it, of just, there's so much scope that they could do, and there's so many different franchises to make games of, and I'm hoping now, we've got a lineup of games coming in the future. Probably, we've got all the big movies. We've got Incredibles 2. We've got Toy Story. We've got other movies down the line from Disney that they could, and they've probably going to now get back in that line. Whether or not we get top class games for all of them, probably less likely. But maybe even just get back to doing, allowing those franchises out to kind of different companies, and we start getting a little bit more thing. But a year on, it does feel like now, everything's starting to roll a little bit better. I mean, Disney Interactive, everything's been franchised out, but now you're starting to see companies. What are they working on? How long have they been working on it? Because I bet there was a lot of scrambling around for a few months trying to sort out deals, etc.
Yeah, and E3 might be when we start hearing about it. D23 might be when we start hearing about it. But I also will expect some more collections of re-releases, just like the Afternoon Collection.
Just kind of fill out the gap. But no, it definitely feels like a year on. Disney Infinity essentially, I think, out in the wild is now pretty much just resigned to discount bins, and I imagine like second-hand sellers and stuff like here in the UK, CEX. I've got bins full of figures that they can't even sell, and people are, they'll give you like 1 cent kind of towards it kind of thing. There's just not a lot of value in them at all. No,
and Toys R Us actually, I think it was this past week, actually had a sale where it was buy one, get 3 free on all Skylanders except Imaginators and all Disney Infinity figures. And it's just like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
Toys R Us, when they're clearing out their section that much, it's probably a sinking ship. I mean, that was including the Eons Elite Skylander figures, the ones that are $20. So you could get literally 4 Eons Elites for $20, which is just kind of crazy.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, as well, I mean, they probably went in so, they were the one place that you could kind of get everything. They probably had so much stock to clear. But also, as well, that thing about having, they were almost like the last, they kind of maybe held on a bit more because the kids could still buy them and stuff. But, they'll want to be getting ready for, for Christmas. They'll want this gear gone now. They've been, obviously, I would have, in some ways, I would have thought they would have done this for Christmas last year. But depends if there was nothing, if they had nothing ready to go in that space. That was the other problem.
Right. And also, you still have plenty of parents who don't pay attention to, video game news, as they don't need to. They're not gamers themselves, so why would they? So they may not have known that Disney Infinity was canceled. They may not have known that there's no new Skylanders game coming this year. And, so they can still get a couple of units sold simply by people who don't know that the systems are out. And now by doing a buy one, get 3 or buy 2, get 2, whatever kind of sale, they can get people who are just like, I've never played Disney Infinity, but I love Star Wars figures, so I'm going to go ahead and pick up Kylo Ren and the characters that I love and just put them on my shelf. Never even use them as Toys to Life figures.
Yeah. I mean, there's other things as well. Obviously, they still had Skylanders and Lego Dimensions last Christmas, so they still had that. And I almost feel like that space was still dedicated. Going into this year, they're looking at going, well, there's no Infinity. There's no Skylanders other than a few releases here and there. Lego Dimensions is drying up and maybe isn't working the same, and they know something's happening. And then Amiibo, they're gone the second they get out on the shelf, so that whole section just doesn't exist the same.
I'm waiting for a Legos Dimension patch that doesn't add anything, it just corrupts all your save files.
I thought that was everyone.
Yeah, but the other ones add stuff in, so it's like a thing. No, the feature is it just corrupts your saves, and so you can feel good and just walk away from it because all of your hard work is completely gone. Going way back to the beginning of this episode, you mentioned that I think they said Spyro was in an ad. I think they said that was an ad for like their Smash Bros. Game, the PS All Stars or whatever. So I think Spyro is coming to that game.
Yeah,
I don't.
It was kind of like basically it was a Eurovision kind of, and 12 points goes to, and it had like Crash Bandicoot, it had all their different characters from the different ones from the different team, and it could be completely just someone just sat there made up a picture because of the Sony exclusive kind of characters, but it's definitely that I wouldn't be surprised if they brought Spyro back as a solo game again, because it was he got lost in the Skylanders, and it's been a long time since. And I think there is that thing as well of really realizing that they actually do need some children-based video games, because they're losing a generation, because they've kind of gone a little bit. There's not a lot of family games and kid games out there, and they maybe aren't quite as expensive to make as these. They are like the AA games.
I mean, as much as we may praise games like The Last of Us and The Last Guardian and Horizon Zero Dawn or whatever, you do have to have stuff for kids as well. Now, I would be thrilled if they would do a re-release of the original Spyro games from like the PlayStation era, but also the first couple of Skylanders games, just update them to use the new figures. Don't even have to give them special powers. But
and I still think Skylanders has a leg, even if they removed the figure aspect. I still think it would be a good video game. It's a
good platformer.
Yeah.
Which leaves us, I think, the final thing we can end on, which is, Disney Infinity exists on the PC now as a full product where you can get all the single characters for one price up front. I don't think we'll ever see that on the console, but it is something that, could end up being a surprise release where it's just like, all right, Disney Infinity 3.0 Gold Edition, Xbox One and PS4. Here you go. Don't need the figures. Just you can swap through all of them, do whatever you want.
Yeah, definitely. Very easily could happen in the future. But on that note, we'd love to know what you guys think. Are you still playing it a year on? Have you given up, or have you gone on to something completely different? Obviously, 1 year on, it definitely seems a very different video game space than it was a year ago. We'd love to know your thoughts on this. You can get in touch with us through the comments below, or you can get in touch with us on all the different social medias. You can watch and listen to this podcast on a number of different services, including VidMe, YouTube, Twitch. You can also find us on iTunes. You can also find us on all the different social medias as well. Check out DisKingdom.com. Again, thank you, James, for joining me today, and we'll be back with another episode soon. Laters.
Later.